The Football Kickoff.
With Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Alright, you're very welcome along to this week's episode of the Football Kickoff with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you turn on notifications, we'll let you know whenever we're going live, which is generally on Friday mornings at 11:30. I'm delighted to say Keith Treacy is back with us. Also Phil Egan. Lads, you're both very welcome. Thanks very much.
Hey,
Happy St. Patrick's Day. You never got no bank holidays really in football. No, everybody else celebrating around you and you're all like, we've got to work.
Yeah, well, you get used to it though. You just get your head down. It's better than going up to the parade. My wife wants me to go up to the parade tomorrow, but thankfully I have a bit of work on the go, so I don't have to go. So yeah, I'm used to just avoiding the St. Paddy's Day parade and
doing
a bit of work. Yeah, 4 kids all together, 3 in the gaff at the minute, so I'll be up on O'Connell Street tomorrow.
And they want to go to the parade?
My wife wants to go to the parade. I think she's going to make everybody else go, so thankfully I have an avenue that I don't have to go. So
you have the excuse of work. Okay, we're definitely in two minds about the bringing kids to the parade thing. I'm not quite sure about it.
Well, I was there. I was only telling Phil, I was there last year. Got there nice and early, and about 2 minutes before the parade started, somebody came with a stepladder and literally stood in front of me. So I just looked at somebody's back for the whole time. So yeah, I'm not very motivated to go up to it, so thankfully I can hide behind a bit of work.
TV, it's on TV, Ger.
I mean, that's definitely like, and it's not just me saying that, the kids are saying that too. Can we not watch this on TV? I'm like, I mean, I'm kind of in favour of that.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
We are, of course, streaming live on Thursday. So normally we're on a Friday. I wasn't sure if we were going out live, but it turns out we are. So hello to all of our live viewers, and happy Thursday and / Friday to you. Let's start with the games this week. Tomorrow night, Friday the 17th of March, on St. Patrick's Day, Forest vs Newcastle is live at 8 o'clock on Sky Sports. On Saturday, Southampton Spurs is at the 3 o'clock kickoff on Premier Sports. Wolves and Leeds and Chelsea Everton is 5:30 on Sky. And then on Sunday, big game, Arsenal versus Palace, which is live and off the ball with Stephen Doyle and Kenny Cunningham on duty for that one. Let's start with the Arsenal one, because I think it's real fascination time to see exactly how they're going at the moment. The truth seems to be that they're sticky, and they now have some strength in depth with Gabriel Jesus coming back. Trossard has been a brilliant signing. We knew he would be, but we weren't quite sure if he'd fit in straight away. So I'm not saying they're home by any stretch of the imagination, but it's theirs to lose now.
I'm not so sure about that. They still have to go. They've got some huge away games. They play City. I think they play Liverpool as well. They have to go to Newcastle. There's some huge games to come, but look, I'm very reluctant to get on board, and it's not because I don't think Arsenal have been brilliant. I think they've been the best team in the league so far, but Manchester City just have all the form, and we all know they have another gear to hit, and not many teams would do what they did during the week, to score 7 in the Champions League and just put RB Leipzig to one side. You know, not many teams can do that. So look, it's all looking good for Arsenal. Gabriel Jesus coming back into the squad. Trossard looks brilliant, and that was one thing I wanted to highlight. You know, Arsenal got the last minute goal against Villa, got the last minute goal against Bournemouth. They wanted Mudryk, didn't end up getting Mudryk, but ended up with Trossard. Even then, Arsenal seemed to have fallen on their feet with Mudryk, not getting Mudryk and getting Trossard a hat-trick of assists against Fulham. And I heard them, the commentary against Fulham, and they were described as smooth as silk, and that's probably the best way I could put it, as smooth as silk. Some of the passing is lovely, it's beautiful football, and it could have been 5-0 at half time, and Fulham aren't a team that get rolled over very easy these days. So
we thought that'd be tricky. Exactly,
yeah. So look, a huge compliments to Arsenal. I still don't believe it's in their hands. I still think City will go and find the gear, but the longer City stay in that Champions League, the more hope there is for Arsenal, I think.
So it's actually better for them that City are putting up those performances against Leipzig, and then having a little bit of sense of, after the Lord Mayor's show, this is like a pissant little Premier League game. All of us have medals. Does anybody not have medals? Phillips, Haaland, obviously, yeah.
Although he did say after the game the other night, he said, I was brought here to win the Champions League. They know how to win the Premier League.
I mean, I think that's true.
Yeah,
I do think that's true, and I think we're seeing them trying something different, and like Pep's giant brain is like slightly going into overdrive here. Is it better for Arsenal then? We'll know tomorrow, if you're watching this today. Is it better for Arsenal not to progress in the Europa League? Like, I'm definitely in two minds about this.
Yeah,
create the winning culture. Every game's, you're like Man United in the treble winning season, or you're like a team who's just desperate to win their first league, and then nothing matters except the league.
I think you just take it game by game. You know, whatever game is next, you play it, you try and win it. I don't think Arsenal can pick and choose. City can pick and choose. City have dominated the Premier League. They're probably a little bit bored of winning the Premier League, and you ask any of their fans, they want the Champions League. So I think hopefully Manchester City get to the semis or get to the final of the Champions League, take their eye off the Premier League a little bit. Maybe there's 1 or 2 injuries and Arsenal just go and keep doing what they're doing, and they're brilliant. But look, I don't think we could say that if Arsenal do go on to win the league, that they've only won it because Manchester City have took their eye off the ball.
No.
Yeah, if Arsenal win it, they've been outstanding. They deserve to win it. And look, I'm an Arsenal fan, and I want the Champions League football at the start of the season. I think we're clearly going to do that. So look, I'm delighted with how it's going. I don't want to get too greedy and say if we don't win the league, I'm going to be disappointed. I didn't expect this. The Zinchenko, Jesus, Xhaka, Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, absolutely outstanding, and all of a sudden we've learned how to defend as well, and we look like we've a good goalkeeper as well, which is not something we usually associate with Arsenal.
The Mudryk Trossard thing is really interesting. Like, I can see Mudryk going on to have an even better Premier League career than Trossard, but right now at this specific moment, getting somebody with Premier League experience who's a little bit chippy about the fact that he's no longer at Brighton has been really good for them.
Yeah, and also even Jorginho coming in, they wanted Caicedo, they didn't get him, but Arsenal have decided in January that they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure they have the best chance of winning the league. They're not going to say, oh, do you know what, we'll wait till the summer and we'll bring in this player. They've decided like they had to move, and obviously Trossard has worked out. Jorginho is not in the team now because Partey is back, but Jorginho had a crucial role in that third goal against Aston Villa. It was an own goal, but it came off the back of an absolute stunning shot.
It wasn't going in without him, yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, they haven't taken any chances. And Saliba, we obviously knew he had a good season with Marseille, and there was all this talk, was Arteta going to bring him back? Ramsdale, I have to hold my hands up. When he was signed, I thought it was a strange one. And even when he came in, I was thinking, is this guy going to be the answer for Arsenal? He's been unbelievable this season for them. And I keep watching games thinking, where's the mistake going to come in? But he doesn't make too many mistakes. And, you know, he's pulled off some really good saves. I think if Arsenal don't win it from here, I don't think it's a case that they're going to bottle it. I think that the fact that they're still here means that they've shown that they have what it takes. But they're one game away, just one draw even, and then it's back in City's hands. That's how close it is. But I think it's so important that they obviously get the result on Sunday and they get the job done, because we all just presumed that they were going to hockey Bournemouth, and then they got the win. Whereas I actually felt the Fulham game was going to be a tricky one.
Yeah.
I would imagine you're playing the most out of form team in the Premier League at the weekend.
In Palace,
yeah. It's at home. You'd imagine it's 3 points, and that could be the end then for Patrick Vieira. Yeah.
That's the ball game though from Vieira's perspective, right?
Yeah, and look, Palace haven't been great. You haven't won a game this year, but when you look at their performances, the performances have been okay. But like we say, I've been saying this for 12, 13 games now. They're playing okay. Again, played okay during the week, but end up getting beaten. So look, I just hope Arsenal don't go and mess this up when you expect them to go and win excuse me, against a team who hasn't won. Zaha's going to be coming back into the team. I know he is back in, but he'll be starting to find his feet again after his injury. So this is one of them tricky ones for Arsenal. I'm sure Mikel Arteta will be telling them this is a London derby. Palace haven't won. They're fighting for their lives. Let's just not let this slip here, because we can all, if City go and beat Arsenal and then you lose to a Newcastle away or a Liverpool, you can sort of stomach that as an Arsenal fan. To go and get beat by Crystal Palace and it come down to something like that would really leave a sickening taste in the mouth.
I don't know if you saw this during the week, but he was talking about how his bench aren't substitutes anymore, they're impactors. I'm like, I think I've seen this in other sports before, Michael. This isn't actually your invention. He's borrowing from the rugby playbook, Clive Woodward and his finishers.
Yeah, but it also,
Eddie Jones and his finishers.
The five substitutes has meant this is a possibility that you have to have good backup. And Ten Hag has obviously masterminded some great substitutions this season.
Sometimes Pep doesn't even use them because he's so good.
Yeah, and then I look at someone like Klopp, who his substitutions have been absolutely awful this season, and he did it again against Real Madrid, where you're looking at, sometimes do you wonder, are they told this player X has such amount of minutes in their legs and you have to take them off after a certain time? But he has options. But he mentioned even when Jesus came on last week, he said he's not a guaranteed starter to come back in. And the beauty of Trossard is it's moved Martinelli into the centre. They can switch as well, but Martinelli started scoring goals again.
Well, I was going to say, what do you put the recent uptick in form, and are there patterns of play emerging from that attacking style that we're seeing from Arsenal at the moment that you can explain to us or that have impressed you?
Well, the big one for me is the Swiss centre midfielder, Xhaka in the middle. I know he at one point, probably going back 2 years ago, when he was getting booed off the pitch and he had a pop back at the fans. That wasn't looking
Palace
good.
as well,
against
it?
Palace, yeah. So look,
you're on the way out when that happens. Like
that's what
100 times out of 100, you're on the way out, and somehow he's still here. And
to be fair, when he did that, people were thinking he's on the way out. I don't think Arsenal fans really were bothered about it. Like, yeah, get him out then. But he's just all of a sudden started playing a little bit higher. Martinelli's hit the ground. Saka looks like a wall beater over there. And even Nketiah, when Nketiah's come in after Jesus, he's done really well. I know he's injured again at the minute, but he's took up the mantle. And these players that maybe there was question marks, he's a good squad player, but if we need him, can he actually do it for us? Everything is just turning up so well. And like I say, just look, you say you weren't convinced about Ramsdale. I wasn't convinced about Ben White going in at centre half, and then when he played a couple of games, he got bullied, moved out to right back. Looks like a great decision on paper. I wouldn't have been happy doing that because he is a centre half, but like a duck to water at right back, and everything is just falling really, really well for Arsenal. They've had a little bits of ups and downs. I was reluctant to call that even a blip when they got
2 City games and
the City game. Yeah, but
I think if Villa had beaten them, it would have been a full blown blip. But the fact that they were able to come back from that, it is one of those sliding doors moments for a season where you're like, no, hang on a second, we're not just going to get sucked into the way previous teams at Arsenal would have, or other teams who are shooting out of the pack to be title contenders. We've seen it with so many teams in the past. Yeah, well, the two things that stand out for me about these two teams is Arsenal are in that winning feeling. They just expect to win football games when they go out now, and I think Palace are going out there hoping they win, but probably expecting to lose, because winning's a habit and losing is a habit, and Palace are in that losing habit. So if I was Mikel Arteta on Sunday, I'd be telling Arsenal, start really high tempo, 20 minutes, get a goal, put these on the back foot, and they won't want to be here anymore. Yeah, get it. Don't drag them into the deep water early on and move on. So that game is Sunday live and Off the Ball. Stephen Doyle and Kenny Cunningham on duty for that one. Tomorrow night's game is Forest against Newcastle. Is there life in Newcastle yet, Phil?
That was a big win for them last weekend. It was their first win since the middle of January in the league when they beat Fulham, and they've only lost 3 league games this season. 1 against City, 2 against Liverpool. So they're still hard to beat, but they're obviously dropping points or drawing too many games. But they have a few big games to come at St James's Park. You mentioned that they have to play Arsenal. They still have to play Spurs there. They still have to play United. They play United actually after the international break. So it is in their hands. If they're able to win any of those games, they certainly have a chance. I do feel though they kind of almost look like they've run out of steam a bit, that they're still going to be hard to beat, but they'll probably draw too many games. I'm kind of leaning towards Tottenham now, that Tottenham, not because of their quality, but just the chasing pack can't catch them.
With Conte as the manager for the rest of the season.
Bizarre, yeah. Even like you saw him even last weekend, and he was full of the joys again, celebrating goals.
He'd been doing the tourist stuff with his wife. There were photographs on her Instagram of them like seeing the sights, which is, I mean, obviously they can do what they want in their spare time, but like you'd think they might have done that up before this. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, it's time for us to say goodbye. We're going back to. It's like we better, do the sights. We've lost time. No, this is it now. The clock is ticking. Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Well, look, I'm sure we'll get into Spurs, Southampton and Spurs in a little bit, but this is coming from an Arsenal fan, but I'm not sure what more Spurs fans want. They're sitting 4th in the league. They're a couple of points off Manchester United.
Trophy. Any old trophy.
Also, you want to be entertained.
I know
this
that.
Great big stadium. Like, at least give it. Like, some of their games have been turgid this season, and it's not as if they don't have good players. They do have some really exciting players, but Conte is just very rigid in how he sets the team up, and it can be effective, especially against bigger teams. But sometimes it's just like, what are they waiting for? Like, how disappointing were they against AC Milan?
I take that point, but look, if they're sitting 4th in the league, in terms of the squad, Manchester United are above them, Arsenal and City are above them. They're not better than any of them teams on paper. So for me, they've probably reached the glass ceiling. Maybe they could go and catch United. They're not catching Arsenal. They're not catching City. Arsenal and City are way better teams than them. So look, for me, the Spurs fans, I know it's not pretty on the eye, but the grass is not always greener. You get, say, a Pochettino to come back in the door and start trying to play sexy football, you could easily find yourself unstuck again and start filtering down the league. So for me, I think the Spurs fans, although it's not pretty on paper, they're getting results, they're in a decent position in the league, they've got points on the board. The front three are very, very good, but when you take that front three out, that becomes a bang average Spurs squad for me, I have to be honest. So look, I think the Spurs fans should be happy with what they have. So look, fourth in the league, couple of points behind United. I think they're probably overachieving at the minute when you think of Liverpool and Chelsea are to come back into that as well. Maybe not this season, but in general.
They're away at Southampton on Saturday afternoon. That game's at 3 o'clock on Premier Sports. Are we finished with Forest Newcastle? Do you think they're going to get a result?
If Forest are going to stay up, it's obviously down to their home form.
Yeah.
You covered the Forest Everton game.
Yeah.
And Brennan Johnson was key to Forest, and he's an injury out for this game.
Yeah.
So obviously Chris Wood can't play because he's on loan from Newcastle. So it's it's looking at their fixtures.
If Newcastle are to finish in the top 4, these are the types of games that you've got to pick up 3 points in.
Yeah. But I actually think, I know we've been talking about the title race, but the relegation scrap between now and the end of the season is going to be unbelievable. We mentioned Palace. They're on 27 points. Anyone from them down can go down. And look at some of the clubs in there. Like some massive clubs with serious pedigree in the Premier League. West Ham, look, they've gone down before. Everton had the great escape last season. They look like that was a massive win for them last week against Brentford. All their wins under Sean Dyche have been 1-0s at Goodison, and maybe that's how they stay up. But with Forest, I'm looking at them, they have 26 points. Probably need...
I thought they were safe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but
now all of a sudden you're like,
what is the cut-off point, do you think? Is the
cut-off point going to be really low or really high this year? It feels like everybody's picking up points at a higher rate than they would have done previously, but they're obviously taking points off each other. So is 33 going to be a magic number? 34 this year?
40 was always the magic number, but I'm looking at, say, Forest now, they're on 26. If they got to 38, would that be enough for them? So that's 4 wins they need from their last 12 games. That's doable. And also, I know they've the worst away record in the Premier League, but they have, say, a trip to Leeds. They've got a good record against Leeds. That goes back to the Championship. They seem to enjoy playing Leeds. Surely they'll pick up a win away from home. So can they win 3 more home games? And you kind of think they should be all right.
Yeah, I was listening to Steve Cooper yesterday speaking about Brennan Johnson, and he was saying that he came off with a groin strain and with muscle injuries you don't usually turn around that quickly, but he's saying I'm not totally ruling him out yet, and I think he just needs to be careful with Brennan Johnson because he's a big I think he's 7 goals in the Premier League already. He's vital to what Forest do. So if Steve Cooper was to get tempted and throw him in against Newcastle and he gets another little niggle and he's set back for a month, that would be the worst case scenario for me. So even if Forest can say, listen, we won't play Brennan Johnson, you haven't got Chris Wood either. I know it's a big miss, but I would be wrapping him in cotton wool saying you just make sure you're fit for it. In particular the home games, we can probably let the Newcastle one go, but we need Brennan Johnson fit. If he was to get a serious injury and be out for a month, they'd be looking over their shoulders. A quick Google on this, so take this with a tiny pinch of salt. In the 2020-21 season, any team who had 29 points or more, that was enough to stay up. I don't think that's going to do it for you this season. The average over the last, since the start of the Premier League, is 35.6. That's what the last team to get relegated, on average, that's what they get. So if you get over that, you've been safe on average. With the one exception of that one time that West Ham got 42 points and still got sucked back down. Did they get points deducted that year, or did they not get points deducted? That was another year, wasn't it?
Oh, you're thinking of when they stayed up
when Carlos Tevez
scored at Old Trafford. Yeah, I think looking at even like Southampton last night, they could have moved out of the bottom 3, but they didn't win. But they're competitive. All these teams now are competitive in games. I've mentioned Leeds since Gracia's come in. That was a good draw they got against Brighton last weekend. Everyone is just scrapping it. I just think it's going to be a brilliant finale to the season at that end of the table.
And flaky Spurs, this is exactly one of those games where it's 0-0, and there's a good but not great performance, or there's a brilliant performance from Bazunu, and that's enough. I don't expect Spurs to win this game, even though they'll be favourites for it.
I do
expect them to win?
I expect them to win. I don't expect it to be easy. I think it'll be more of a grinding result. They'll go there, it'll be touch tackle, it'll be really they won't concede goals, they won't give any chances up, and they'll just let the game linger and linger and linger. And I think in the last 20 minutes, cool as FC Kane or Son, somebody will go and do something and win the game for them. And Spurs, for me, they're very good individuals, but as a team, they don't gel as well. And there just seems to be so much unrest outside the club. Is Conte staying? Is he going? And for me, when you I keep going back to when you look at the on paper where they're at the table, the points they have, I don't know what more the Spurs fan want. And I know they want pretty football, they want attractive football, but it's not as easy as that, and they're not as good at playing football as Manchester City or Arsenal. So why would you try and beat teams like that when you're not as good as them?
It's not a bad position for them to be in fourth at the moment. If they're still fourth, it's a great job in the summer for whoever gets it, and they can all go, yeah, you did a good job, steadied the ship, got us back into the Champions League in successive years. Harry Kane is either staying or going, but at least we know what the scenario is and everybody's happy. But if they don't, it's not as easy to convince Luis Enrique or Tuchel or whoever to take the gig, is it? No Champions League football next season?
I don't know. I think it'd be an attractive job. I think they should stay away from Pochettino. I don't think it'd be a good thing to go back there. I think sometimes the issue I would have with Spurs is I get the way they're set up, but sometimes they don't engage at all with opposition teams, and it's almost like it takes conceding a goal to spark them into life.
Like it's a training session.
And that's not a good...
But that's not a reflection of Conte at all. Like, he's a vicious competitor.
Yeah.
Why does that happen?
Is it a case that players are not aware? Are they playing with fear? Are they unaware of their roles? Or when they go a goal down, the kind of shackles come off because they say, well, we're going to lose, so we might as well have a go? Somebody
was in question in the dressing room, wondering if like the character of the dressing room is strong enough, the senior players to actually say, this is like, we should be much better. Why are we not performing? Why are we conceding goals from like on the break and from corner kicks? Why is this happening?
I'm not too sure, but again, like I keep going back to it. I know defensively they're really, really rigid at the start of the games. It's like they need to feel the other team's power before they start trying to score goals and click in the final third. But Spurs have scored 49 goals, which is 8 more than Manchester United. They've won the same amount of games as Manchester United, yet the feelings between the two clubs, like everybody's saying, United are having a decent season under Ten Hag, he steadied the ship, they're doing well. Spurs are scored 8 more goals and won the same amount of games, only I think they're 4 points behind Manchester United in the league. Yet the feeling between the two sets of fans are really chalk and cheese. So for me, if I was Conte, I'd be just saying to the fans, get behind us, push us towards the end. We still could catch United and finish third.
Fair point.
I know it's not pretty,
they're only 2 behind, yeah.
Maybe the United fans know that they're getting Harry Kane or something like that, and then that will completely change things, because whatever about Spurs, they have good attacking players, and I don't think they have great defenders. Obviously Romero's their best defender, but he keeps getting sent off.
Yeah.
So I can see why Conte wants to protect that probably lack of strength sometimes at the back, but
Bentancur is a big miss as well. He's out with the rest of the season. He was the link from the midfield to the forward, and he's not there now. And Oliver Skip he's an honest boy. He runs around, he tries his best, but he is a little bit of a downgrade on Bentancur, so he's a big miss as well.
Yeah, and they brought in Basuma, who everyone just presumed after watching him play for Brighton in the Premier League he'll just go in, because even going back to what Arsenal have done with the recruitment, I saw during the week that 43% of the players Arteta has signed have been from Premier League clubs.
Right.
So it goes back to what we said about Trossard. Tried and trusted, in you go. None of this, I have to give you a few months to see can you fit into the system.
Yeah.
Like, he was good to go, drop him in, and look how he's done.
They're really reaping the benefit of that. The goal scoring, it's really interesting. Man United have scored not a lot of goals. 41 goals they've scored so far. Brighton have scored more goals than them. Brentford have scored more goals than them, and Brentford are 8th and Brighton are 7th. The one thing, I'm just looking at Chelsea here, and we'll talk about them next. Chelsea have only conceded 26 goals. Arsenal have conceded 25, and Manchester City have conceded 25. So a lot of the stuff they're doing is reasonable, but they've only scored 27 goals, which makes them the lowest goal scorers by far, all the way down to Crystal Palace, who obviously, as we've been talking about, can barely score. Chelsea are just about averaging a goal a game, which is disastrous for them. But have they turned a corner?
It looks like that, yeah. It looks like they're starting to find some form. They've 3 wins on the bounce, 2 clean sheets. But the big one for me is I don't think Graham Potter knows his best team just yet. I think there's been that many bodies coming into the building. It's so difficult. And you start breaking into the stats. And the XG for Chelsea in games is actually quite good. It's quite high, the expected goals. But they're just not taking their chances. And look, I know Aubameyang's there. I know how that finished at Arsenal. It didn't seem to click at Barcelona either for him, and at Chelsea now he's not really getting a look in, so he just seems to be a man in limbo at the minute. They've an injury list as long as my arm, Chelsea. Thiago Silva is obviously a huge miss as well. N'Golo Kante hasn't played a lot this season, and there's been a lot of underperformance as well. Raheem Sterling only 4 goals, Mason Mount 3 goals. They're so talented, them 2 boys. To be coming out with 7 goals between them 2, I think Graham Potter will be having a word with them, demanding more, higher standards for them, demanding goals and assists. And look, Chelsea have the bones of a very, very good team there. I think Graham Potter just needs more time on the training ground with them to drill them, get his best 11. And I think at the minute there's a little bit of Graham Potter trying to keep everybody happy rather than just getting his starting 11 and saying, these are my boys. If somebody's injured or somebody impresses me, he'll come into it. But for me, that's my 11 and this is how we're going to go.
It could still go either way for Graham Potter this year.
Yeah.
A reasonable draw in the Champions League, an appearance in a semi-final, say, big European nights back at the Bridge, Todd Bowley, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and a winning run at the end of the season. It takes them to the Europa League, say, and then all of a sudden the mood music changes and they're like, okay, no more signings in the summer.
Yeah,
or certainly half the team goes out.
Todd Bowley will be able to
fewer signings
resist from that, but they definitely need to get rid of players. You mentioned Mason Mount. It seems that he's on his way out,
there's a pathway for this for him still to be the manager at the start of next season, though.
Definitely.
Whereas like 5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago,
like a few wins and we're not talking about him anymore. It's gone from like that Dortmund game was huge, obviously, and I think they play with more intensity. I had a feeling they would, because players will realise this is the Champions League, that whether we think the manager is good enough for this club, this is the Champions League. The players stepped up and they deserve to win that night. But if they got one of the way I look at the Champions League now, there's obviously City are favourites. If they got a Napoli or if they got Bayern Munich, would you be
lights out?
Yeah,
straight away. That's a kill shot. But
even teams like Benfica, I think Benfica will give Chelsea a serious test.
At least you'd give them a chance of getting through.
Yeah.
I don't think I give them much of a chance against Real Madrid at the moment.
No, I forgot about Real Madrid. Yeah, they're not bad either.
Yeah, but they're in a tier who would cause trouble for, and maybe they do need to be massive underdogs going into one of those games, and it's a backs to the wall performance, and it's like, suddenly he looks like a genius because he's got them through a tough time. Maybe that's even better for his career in the long run. This is a test, obviously. A test of their physicality, of their balls, basically. Do they have the gumption to be able to deal with the physical challenge, which isn't as bad as we might have expected from Everton and from Sean Dyche, but he's certainly getting more from the team.
Yeah, and look, that's the first thing that Sean Dyche will say in the Everton dressing room, is that he believes there's a soft underbelly to this Chelsea team. If you bring them into deep water, you make them do the horrible part of the game, make them close people down, get them running towards their own goal. And look, I think this will actually play into Everton's hands this game. I think Chelsea will dominate the ball. Everton average only 43% possession, which I think is probably a good thing for them. I don't think they want to have the ball too much. I think they want to press and counter press teams, win the ball high up and go and hurt them from there. And the good thing under Sean Dyche, we were saying where the goal's going to come from. They're nicking games 1-0. Defensively, they're very, very rigid. Demarai Gray has 4 goals. He looks like the man who's going to come to the forefront and start firing some goals in. McNeil jumped in with a goal last week as well. So Sean Dyche should be saying if we can score 1 goal in every game till the end of the season, then the defenders will be able to do the rest for us. But to go back to Graham Potter, if he was to lose this game against Everton, that bad feeling just creeps straight
away
back in, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like we haven't built on anything. But they do have a glittering array of attacking talent, and it looks like they're starting to create chances.
They do, but if you were to tell me, which type of team do I not want Chelsea to play against, I would say a battling team, a hard-fought team, a stubborn team. That they will struggle to break down. I think they'll get chances. They will get chances against Everton. It's whether or not they can put them away. They haven't been putting them away this season. And like I say, I think Everton will put an awful lot of balls into the box. They'll put the two Chelsea centre halves under all sorts of pressure, and any sort of second balls, they'll be there or thereabouts. And the midfield all of a sudden looks really good with the Corey, Idrissa Gueye and Onana. Those three in there can get around the pitch, they can defend well, and they can eat up the ground. And you see the Corey as well done really well against Forest. And Seamus Coleman, looking at it from Irish eyes against Forest, he was brilliant up and down the right wing all day long. So
he could have a busy afternoon ahead of him, because Ben Chilwell's been very good. And if you're Everton, do you just let Reece James and Ben Chilwell have the ball and say, yeah, away you go, if you want to put crosses into the box? Because who's going to... Havertz, he's not bad in the air, but are you going to fancy him to score a header against the Everton centre halves? Yeah. So, but those two players, Reece James and Ben Chilwell, coming in, have been a big help. And like, it's not rocket science. Your best players are on the pitch, you've a better chance. But the lack of goals is something that Potter had at Brighton.
It is, yeah.
Since he's left, Brighton they're starting to level out a little bit, but they're racking up some big numbers. Now, in fairness to him, his last game they scored 5 against Leicester, Brighton's last game under Potter. So it's it's no coincidence that I don't know.
It just looks to me though that like the Kovacic Fernandes, that's beginning to be a relationship. And if you can, like, if an hour in suddenly N'Golo Kante comes on for the last half hour, there's definitely a path for Chelsea to go on a run here where there's a bit of calmness. João Felix wants to stay, it looks like.
Yeah. Only if they get Champions League.
Yeah.
Which I don't think, are any of us mentioning them as top 4? I don't think so.
Like, it'd be an amazing run. They'd need to basically win every game at this point.
So they'd probably find it easier to win the Champions League, which won't be easy.
No, but again, they're not dead in it,
Definitely not. I mean, I think there's 4 standout teams in the Champions League left for me, and that's Napoli, Bayern, Real Madrid and City. But for all we know, they could get each other in the quarterfinals, and then the two Milan clubs, Benfica and Chelsea, just sneak in on the other side.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Is that draw tomorrow?
That draw is tomorrow after 11 o'clock. Yeah.
The Ireland squad being named a little bit later on today. By the time most people listen to this, they'll probably know exactly what the details are. But you mentioned Seamus Coleman there. Like, how does he not start the game against France at this stage when he's like one of the few players we have playing week in, week out in the Premier League? It'd be, I don't know if it'd be a wise decision to drop him at this point, even though he's not the same player he used to be. But like, having his wisdom on the pitch, I think at least a start. Yeah,
I think it's a no-brainer. I'd be more than surprised if Seamus doesn't start against the French. I don't think he'll play against Latvia just because he's playing at Everton at the minute. He doesn't need the minutes. I think Doherty might get 45 minutes, maybe 60 minutes just to get him up to speed, and he'll play against the French as well. I think we'll play 5 at the back, maybe Seamus to the right of a 3, maybe the right wing back, I'm not too sure, maybe Doherty on the right wing. But I do think we'll double up on Mbappe. But you double up on Mbappe, you're leaving Dembele on the other side. Griezmann's going to be floating about. Giroud and might pin our centre halves back. Look, and to be fair,
when you say it like that, I mean,
I know, but look, I actually think we'll do okay in the French game. I don't think we'll win, I don't think we'll draw, but I think we'll give a fighting performance. We'll go out, we'll get some sweat on the jersey, and it'll be largely accepted because the French are so good. What I want to see is us to go and put Latvia to the sword, a lesser team. Let's go and play a 4-3-3, play through the towards, nice, pretty, attractive football, and then when a big team like France comes, go back to your 5 at the back.
See, okay, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually picks his full team for the Latvia game to give them a run out, at least for the start of it.
An hour even.
Just to get everybody, it's been a long time since we've all been together. This is how Evan's going to make his runs. When he makes those runs, you find him. And I wouldn't be terribly surprised that happens, which means there'll be no 4-3-3, and we might be a bit like, oh Jesus, what, we could definitely come away from the Latvia game going, well, this doesn't bode very well, but actually it's good preparation. So I don't know, as a manager, which do you want?
Yeah, I take your point. It's a good point, but the one thing that for me is, if say we throw Coleman in and Evan Ferguson and they come off with a hamstring strain or something, you're just going to put your head in your hands and think, why did I risk them? Why on earth did I risk them? And at the end of the day, it's only a friendly. So I think players as well will know the French game is coming and be thinking, I don't want to put myself in harm's way just this minute. So look, I think it'll be a mismatch of a team when we play Latvia, but the French game there'll be all sorts getting done on the training ground. I think we'll be as strong as we can, obviously, for the French one. But look, we don't need to go and win the game. I think Irish fans are smart enough to know that the French are a world-class team and we're up against us. So if we run hard, we have desire, we put balls into the box, there is a way we can beat them. Mbappe's going to have an off day, 3 or 4 are going to have an off day. We're going to have to play above ourselves. But look, I've seen it over the years in Lansdowne that we do beat bigger nations. Maybe not so much under Stephen Kenny, but you know, why not?
We were good for an early goal under the trap regime.
Who knows? Mbappe might get injured over the weekend.
Well, they're playing Holland, aren't they? Tomorrow night?
Oh, they play. No, we've games this weekend, and then they play.
Sorry,
Holland.
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
But they have the Dutch games
beforehand. Yeah.
Who knows? Like, you know,
that might get them up. That's the only thing. Is like I can't imagine that they're delighted about the fact that they're all back playing international football so quickly after being beaten in a World Cup final in the way and the manner that they were beaten. You know, like I'm basically man of the match in a World Cup final, and I don't have the trophy. It's like that. You know. Anyway, we'll see. We are clutching at straws. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's this week's episode of the Football Kickoff with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
The Football Kickoff.
With Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.